Before we get started, and I got a number of questions for Eli that I've seen in our enablement kind of chat, and I wanted to ask you, but tell me about yourself. Why are you the right person to talk about this subject? Why are you excited to talk to our community and learn about their challenges? I mean, besides writing the book on enablement and helping build the enablement functions at Salesforce, and I can go through your resume, but why are you the right person, and what are you seeing in this ecosystem?
No, I love it. Thank you for the intro. Thanks for hosting. Thanks for having us. Listen, my team and I are passionate. We are maniacally focused on helping revenue organizations and sales teams get the most out of their organizations. We want to help them boost the productivity of their teams. Right? That's it. That's our mission. We are mission focused. And, we founded SalesHood back in 2013 with the sole purpose to activate teams with content and how to get teams to learn together, sell smarter, and grow faster. And we built a SaaS platform. It's purpose-built, all-in-one sales enablement platform. And the idea for the system, and we got so many customers, and great, we're making a huge impact. You can talk to any of our customers, and we'll mention some of them today. But the idea came from my time at Salesforce. And I ran enablement at Salesforce, from 2005 to 2013, the hyper growth years. And that was a time when sales enablement wasn't yet known as a growth lever. I was working very closely with Mark Benioff. We were looking at sales enablement as a lever for fast growth, for hyper growth. Think about it. Salesforce.com, we had major competitors, and we needed a way to get our teams to be aligned on messaging, needed them to be productive. We needed them closing deals faster. And so after running it for, almost 7-8 years, had a team, like you won't believe it's like 120 people on my team. But I realized, you know what? That's a lot of people. And most companies don't have 120 enablement people. Most companies have a head and a half. We actually, many of our customers are teams of one. So it got me thinking, is there a platform out there? Are there systems that can do enablement at scale? And there wasn't. And so that was a moment of clarity for me. I left, founded the company, and boom, now we've been doing this for 8 years. And we're really excited about the momentum that we have around sales enablement, around SalesHood, but also one more point, Zach, and then I'll pause. The first few years when we started the company, like we were doing a lot of education. We were doing a lot of evangelizing. Like we were teaching people, this is what good sales enablement looks like. Here's a system that's going to help you scale. Here's how you should do onboarding. Here's how you should get your team certified. Here's how your team should be selling virtually, right? Just think of all that. But when COVID hit, the pandemic, boom, everyone started knocking on our door and saying, wait a minute, we need a system to asynchronously get our teams to learn, to collaborate, to coach, to sell with video. And we need a way to do it because our teams are now distributed and remote. Is that what SalesHood does? And then there we are. So we've seen an acceleration of companies and CEOs and CROs leaning into sales enablement post-COVID, unprecedented in the history of sales enablement.
I love it. And thanks so much for the intro. I can see the passion you have for enablement, and I really do love it. And I hope the folks listening can appreciate that. And I'm sure they'll have a lot of questions for you. I think I want to kick things off here. And you mentioned it a little bit, but how has sales enablement kind of dramatically changed over the past couple of years? Like, there's so many roles from onboarding to coaching to content management that's kind of now all within the enablement kind of an umbrella.
Right.
Can we talk about what that means for the enablement space? How do you see it moving forward?
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about, what from when you had a team to now, but what do you see in the next 3-4 years for enablement?
Right. Yeah. And your community is great. You've got a great community of advanced thinkers and the early adopters. So most probably are aware of the evolution of sales enablement, right? It mostly started as a sales training and a sales coaching function. It mostly started as sales enablers who were running boot camps and running kickoff events, right? That's how I started. But it's matured, and now it's increasingly maturing. And so we're as we look ahead now, if you're running an enablement organization, and you're not prioritizing operational rigor, if you're not prioritizing measuring the results and correlating the results, you're missing an opportunity to drive real value. So as I look ahead and I say, okay, where is enablement going? First and foremost, the enablement programs and enablement organizations and teams need to be delivering impacts. And so those impacts need to be measured and quantifiable. And so, Zach, what that means is, hey, if we roll out a training program, or we roll out a coaching program, or we roll out a new playbook, or we onboard a new group of salespeople, we need to know pretty quickly what are the leading indicators that we're impacting, and and how are the programs that we're rolling out, how are they affecting the top line revenue growth, right? So that's like number one. If you're not thinking about enablement from an analytics perspective and data and metrics perspective, you're missing an opportunity. That's one big mega trend. I'm going to give you another one, Zach, and then you'll kind of let me. Another one is what we're seeing is, if you're not thinking about enablement in the sense of as all in one, right? You can't have silos of enablement programs and systems. You can't have your salespeople go to one system for learning, go to another system for onboarding, go to another portal to find content, go to another. Like, the fact that enablement has taken off has also resulted in the proliferation of tools. But now we're going to start shifting into the consolidation of tools. I'm going to, each and every one of you, as you're looking at your teams and you look at your organizations, I challenge you to get your teams using less tools to run the entire enablement function. So that's why you want to have a platform that can deliver one end-to-end workflow, from ramp to revenue, from hire to Hawaii. They got to have one system. And then the third big trend, and then I'll pause for questions, is peer-to-peer. Think about it. Salespeople, customer success folks, any human being, they learn from their peeps. They learn from their people in the hood. That's one of the origins of the name, SalesHood. And so therefore, what we want is we need to build a space, and there needs to be a system that's going to scale peer coaching, peer mentoring, content sharing, the peer-to-peer kind of sharing network. And that needs to live inside of a system. Because think about it. So you start a new company, and you get invited into your system. You log into SalesHood, and you've got your mobile device, you've got an onboarding path, and you're going through your learning. Don't you want to see some of the top performers? Don't you want to see some of the top stories? You want to see the content that's working. You want to see the plays that are working. You want to hear the conversations that are driving the amazing successes. And you want your teams to be able to get access to that. And then they need to practice. They need to get feedback from their peers. So that dynamic way of peer activity, we call it peer accelerated learning, right? So just three big trends. You got to measure what matters. 2, you got to have a system that can manage the entire workflow of enablement from hire to Hawaii. And then you need to be able to scale peer accelerated learning, peer accelerated collaboration. Those are 3 big trends we're seeing, Zach.
I love that. And guys, don't worry. We'll make sure we send this. We'll edit on the platform. You can reach out to John or someone at SalesHood, and they'd be happy to walk you through it. Just make sure they give you that great discount.
Of course.
I'm kidding. No, but you talked a little bit about what good enablement technology looks like, right? And maybe what the makeup should be and what it should encompass. Can you tell me some horror stories? How are people doing enablement wrong, right? Put some fear in the hearts of the folks listening in a little bit.
Well, listen, you know what? I'll tell you, if your sales organ, here's how you know how well your program is perceived by your organization. Have someone, not you, have someone ask one of your sellers, one of your frontline managers, simple question. What do you think of your enablement team? Like, just that split second reaction. Oh my God, they're amazing. Or I don't know. Like, that's just a soft way to get sentiment, right? And so here's what a really bad enablement program feels like. It feels like an unpersonalized experience that is a one size fits all, number one, right? And that sucks. You don't want to have generic learning. You want it to be personalized, prescribed, and it's got to be just in time. And it's got to be, really tailored to the scenario that you're currently, whether you're a new hire or whether you're working a deal. So unpersonalized is horror story number 1. Number 2, I got multiple systems and I'm looking through system 1, system 2, system 3, right? And that's just not a good experience for anyone's act. And then something else, another horror story, another kind of really what bad sales enablement looks like is just content and training and assets and materials that are not relevant. And that's different than personalized, right? A curated, personalized path and a curated a system is one thing, but like when I actually get access to the content, that it's not meaningful, it doesn't have the right materials that I need to actually do my job. And right? And so those are three just, and it's very common, right? It's very, when we walk into companies, right? So that's all kind of like, but really the net of it is enablement teams, and we see this a lot. They're doing a lot of programs, right? And there's actually a proliferation of tools. There's also a proliferation of just programs and trainings and webinars. And like, there's all this stuff being thrown at the reps. And the sellers are like, okay, overload. But the problem is none of it is driving the impact. And so companies are investing a lot of money in sales enablement. And what's happening is nobody can prove the impact. And that's really kind of, go ahead.
But Eli, isn't the problem, we've done a lot of sales enablement dinners, that sales enablement folks don't want to be tied to revenue?
Sales enablement folks?
Yeah, every sales enablement leader I've talked to, and jump in and call me crazy or wrong if you're listening, or tell us horror stories. I feel like they're not interested in being tied to revenue, because that's just one piece of what a sales enabler does.
Oh, it's a great question.
What?
So I'll tell you what we get asked a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We get asked a ton, how should an enablement practitioner be compensated? So I get asked that a lot. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that a lot of our leaders that have had a really great impact, like I'll tell you, like Siobhan Thatcher, right? She is an amazing leader in the industry. Anyone can look her up. We've been working with her for years. She's moved up the ranks, and she actually, when she took the job at Ring Central, she actually said she wants to be tied to the stock price, because she believes that sales enablement will have, and she's talked about that at several of our conferences, right? And so therefore, I think there's a real opportunity to drive alignment between ops and enablement practitioners around that. They should be aligned with the pipeline growth, and they should be aligned with hitting our numbers and specific. Like if I'm an enablement practitioner and I'm responsible for ramping my new hires, doesn't it make sense that I be compensated on the participation of those sellers in delivering quota? And I should get an extra benefit. I should get an extra compensation. I think so. And I think we need to do a better job looking at leading indicators. So for example, enablement folks, hey, listen, I want to be measured on pipeline created, right? If I can train my people and get them to be productive faster, getting them creating stage one opportunities faster, tie me that number, because then I'm going to make higher lift. So I think I'm just going to say something controversial. I think if someone is afraid to be tied to performance numbers, but they're responsible for performance, there's something a little fishy with that one.
I hear you, but I hear it all the time, and I love it. And we have a lot of questions, so we're going to get to them in a second. So appreciate it, everybody.
Absolutely.
But I think one other thing, and this is just coming from our community, and I thought you'd be a great person to ask, is where should enablement sit within the organization?
Yeah.
Right? Maybe that has something to do with it. And I've heard it's the one role, maybe besides chief of staff, where I've heard enablers sit with, CMOs, CROs, COOs, CEOs. I've heard enablement kind of sit below all of them. Who do you?
Yeah. So listen, I've done a lot of thinking on this. I've done a lot of writing on this. I've done a lot of advising companies on this. I've lived it myself when I ran enablement at Salesforce. And so the short answer is it depends. And it depends on how an organization is structured, right? Mm-hmm. If you think about an enablement team needs to be effective, but they need access to content. So they're going to need marketing to deliver the right content. They're going to need product marketing to deliver the right content. So if you're in an organization, and at the same time, you're going to need to be able to be aligned with frontline managers. And so you can see there are a number of stakeholders, right? You've got marketing, you've got ops, you've got sales, you've got HR, right? And so depending where power lives in the organization, depending on which parts of the organization are successful versus unsuccessful, then you're going to make some decisions. Generally speaking, in hyper growth companies, this is, Series B, Series C, Series D companies, pre-IPO, post-IPO, it makes the most sense in those organizations for the enablement team to be living either underneath a senior revenue ops leader or underneath a sales leader directly, because you know what, like we're on it, right? It's just like, yeah, how are we doing this week? How much pipeline have we created? What do we need to tweak? What do we need to iterate? If you can't make those changes and iterations in real time, then you're going to be too late a quarter later when you're realizing that the programs are off. Slightly more mature organizations that are further along, that have nailed down all of their sales process and their sales excellent programs, sometimes organizations, and this happened at Ring Central as well, another Ring Central story. It's happened at a few of our customers. Enablement has done such a great job. Like, think about it. Like, I'm actually writing an article right now for a publication, what HR can learn from enablement. And think about it, right? HR has been very compliance based. They haven't had personalized, curated trainings. They haven't really delivered just-in-time learning. And HR is also, like, we love them. They're great, but they're not really creating culture. We're like, think about the sales organizations and sales teams. So what happened at Ring is the HR and the people team said, enablement is doing such a great job with all of its core enablement functions, onboarding, ramping, coaching, training, messaging alignment, content, like all those things. We want to apply those principles to the rest of the organization. And so therefore they moved enablement from sales to the HR and people function. Now, one more scenario, and then we'll stop.
Yeah.
If content is critical, and let's just say that the product marketing organization isn't strong. Let's just say they're not strong. And so therefore, what you need to do is you need to drive better alignment between enablement and PMM, product marketing. Then it may make sense to move enablement under the CMO. Another one of my customers, another prospect of ours, they called me up and it was a CMO that called me. I'm like, what's going on? How come enablement lives under you? Because no one has really made it work. And so since I, as a CMO, own the messaging, the content, all the product playbooks, we decided that we need to do a better job activating our content and having it live side by side between marketing. So it's a long answer to your question. It depends. I've written about it in the book, and there's a whole section on the pros and the cons of where it should live. But really, you got to ask yourself, what are you trying to accomplish? How quickly do you want to accomplish it? And where are some inefficiencies and deficiencies in your current skill set of the organizationally of the people that are going to support the enablement function, and then align them a lot very closely. And just for those of you that are enablement on the call, I'll just say this to you. Don't try and do a land grab, and don't try and own everything. It doesn't matter. Like, if you're enablement and you're living in ops, and you know, you've got PMM folks that are contributing content, you've got subject matter experts in product, and it's all distributed, but you're the person that's navigating the program, home run. You don't need to own it all.
Yeah, no, I love it. We could do a whole session on where should enablement live, and
Exactly.
BDR. In a past life, I ran a BDR team. Like, what should that have to do with it? And we could do an entire session on that, and maybe we will stealize time and do it again. But let's get to questions. We got a ton, and I want to get to as many as possible. First question. Thanks so much for doing this. I'm building a sales enablement function from scratch, and wondering if you had any tips there. What would be like 2 quick tips, and we'll try to keep these short. 2 quick tips for somebody that's building an enablement team from scratch.
Perfect. So we've seen small companies, we've seen large companies, and what we've created is we've created a maturity model. And so I think there is and that maturity model is what are some of the core foundational pillars that you need to build first, so that way you can evolve and mature your enablement function. I think so just I want you to imagine a maturity model, and I want you to imagine, like, phase 1 is messaging alignment. Meaning you want to get your teams conversationally competent and confident, and you want that to be kind of just core to your program. Phase 2 of your maturity model would be sales process, sales execution, sales tools. Phase 3 would be more around product proficiency, product certifications, competitive. Like, so guess what? Like, I've now built some fundamental pillars. That's probably taken me 6 to 9 months to build out, because I'm not going to try and do it all in the first 30 days. And then in phase 4, then you're going to build kind of a ramping and an onboarding program. Here's what happens. So that's a recommended approach to a maturity model that we think will let you build a program, really curate the right content, really build the right foundational pillars, so that way you can build onboarding. Companies, what they try to do, they try to start with phase 4. right? How can you build an end-to-end 30, 60, 90-day onboarding program for your salespeople, for your SDRs, if you don't have foundational training and foundational content created for messaging, for sales process, for sales execution, for buyer engagement, for products, for competitive, right? Those are like customer stories, right? There's 6 pillars there. So prioritize what are the foundational pillars for your organization, write them down, get alignment with your frontline managers and with your sales leadership. And if it's a smaller company, with your CEO, and then prioritize which pillars you build first, knock them out one at a time, then do onboarding. That's my recommendation.
I love that. No, that's fantastic.
Oh my God, why didn't you tell me this a year ago? Hey,
Jay's
Jay.
mad at you. All right, let's get to some more questions. I want to get to as many as possible, and I really appreciate it. I'm loving this. All right, Sean asks, how can you use tech or guide sellers to self-learn and understand for themselves where they need to improve or understand risk in their own behaviors or activities?
Okay, that's great. So Sean, good to meet you. And listen, I'm here talking about sales enablement. We're providing you with insights and best practices so you can improve your programs and improve yourselves and how you're driving impact. That's what a sales enablement platform does, right? So SalesHood is a purpose-built all-in-one sales enablement platform. And so the technology will provide a curated path with prescribed content that is served up just in time. Salespeople will be able to consume the content, and then they're going to be guided through a process of learning, practicing, and being assessed. Some of the assessments can be done and driven through AI. Other assessments will be reinforced by peer feedback, and other assessments will be done through subject matter experts and manager reinforcement. But what you want to do is you want to create curated learning paths by role with very specific micro learning, micro coaching, and micro assessments that will guide someone through their journey. And it needs to be mapped to when they need it most. And listen, notice what I said there, right? That's why the evolving framework of sales enablement, full circle to the talk before, the question, that's why if you've got a seller and they're using one system for onboarding, they're using another system for coaching, another system to share content with their customers, then what happens is you're not driving kind of the end-to-end workflow of their enablement, and you can't really assess their competence and confidence across every step in their journey. And so, Sean, happy to show that to you and walk you through it as well. I'm sure my team can send you a link and you can see it, but that's it. Now, whether you're using SalesHood, there are many other systems out there, but really define that journey and make it end to end. That's why you need one system for enablement, so that way you don't have silos and you're not trying to figure out and there's pointing fingers. I don't know, Zach, what do you think?
No, I love it. And Jay, when we build a time machine, we're going to tell you this a year ago. So I love that comment. That's awesome. All right, let's keep going. Ton of questions. Let's get you in a little bit of trouble here, Eli. What personality traits lend themselves to a great sales enablement leader?
Got it.
That just got asked in the Q&A. I like it. I'm curious. I mean, you get to work with enablement leaders. You are one yourself. Like, what are the traits? What are the personality traits that you think make for really good enablement leaders?
Okay, so there's a left brain and a right brain when it comes to kind of the and I've got a great visual for this. I think on the left side, we're really, and I'm just using it metaphorically, right? Most enablement folks are really good at the training, the coaching, the facilitation, the motivation, content creation, right? All of these skills that kind of basically like showing up, doing the work and running boot camps and rah, and like that's it. That's who we are by nature. But what we're not is we're not deep analytical thinkers. We're not strong top up communicators. We're not great at the technical side, not technical, the analytics of measuring kind of leading indicators and doing all the correlation analysis. We're not as great as we should be on just building a plan and thinking strategically. And so therefore, I'm encouraging, and this is our contribution to the industry. We've got content, we've got, a lot of content out there. We've got a lot of courses, all free. And because, listen, do I want you to buy my software? Absolutely. But I really care about helping to elevate the sales enablement profession, right? When I started in 2005, no one had sales enablement in their title. Now we've got close to 50,000 people around the world, and the Sales Enablement Society is another great organization. So we're elevating the profession. And therefore, your question's a great one. So let's assume you're great at the coaching, facilitation, and all those stuff that around training and all that good stuff. So where we really need to be better, we need to be strategic. We need to be thinking about metrics. We need to be able to be clear communicators on value. We need to be able to tell compelling stories around the impacts that we're having. And we need to be able to create plans, right? And so to me, the future of enablement is more strategic, and the more aligned you can get with strategic thinking and strategic actions, is I think you're going to be, a much more impactful enablement practitioner in the industry.
No, I love it. And anybody interested, we'll try to get SalesHood to give us some of that information, and we'll share it with our community as
Absolutely.
far as the guides and stuff like that. So thanks so much for doing that.
For sure. Anything else on that question? I think that's it. I think
yeah, we got about 20 questions in the chat. So
okay. You got to keep going. I got it.
Brett asks, how do you measure tool competency during onboarding?
How do you measure true competency in onboarding?
Tools. How do you measure tool competency during onboarding? And
okay.
Brett, if you want to expand on that, feel free to do so in the chat, but I'll pause there.
Yeah. So let me just kind of, when I think of tool competency, for example, it's how effective am I at using Salesforce? How effective am I at using LinkedIn? How effective am I at using, a tool like SalesHood to actually share videos? And so I've got an expression, and I learned it from a dear friend of mine, Barry Ryan. Show me, don't tell me. And so therefore, if it's true that I want to measure someone's competence at either how they run a remote meeting, or how they are setting up their home office environment, or how they are sharing videos using LinkedIn video prospecting or SalesHood, or I want to see how they fill in an opportunity in Salesforce. That's tool competence, right? You got to fill in the fields the right way so I can manage my forecast. We all know how painful that is. So therefore, when you're ramping someone or training someone or rolling out new tools, you need to have them provide you with verification and validation that they understand how the tools work. So let's take an example. Let's use the home office remote, right? We all shifted into remote selling, and we rolled out some training for organizations, and it was about remote selling. So part of the remote selling training is, take a picture of your background, test your speaker, record a quick 10-second video where you're actually showing us, or share a live call where you're showing us how your system and how you're managing a call, right? So I want you to provide actual verifiable evidence that the tools that we're asking you to use are having the desired impact and you're using them the right way. So the only way to verify it is that, you got to see it. You got to see it in action.
Love it. Thanks so much for the question, Brett. Feel free to keep going. Awesome. Let's keep going. We got a lot of questions. I am looking for more accurate ways to calculate ramp time for new hires. What is your advice? Whoever asked that question, I know it's anonymous, but feel free to continue.
That's a hot question. Everybody wants to figure out. So first of all, the number one question is, how do I get my teams to ramp faster, right? Got it. So let's just kind of take that one for a moment, and I get it. Then the question is, how are you measuring ramp time? And all too often, companies and folks end up measuring ramp time using lagging indicators. They'll look at closed deals. They'll look at quota attainment. They'll even look at revenue contribution on any given month, where we're going to push you right now and say you need to look for leading indicators, and you got to measure those early indicators. So for example, if you look at a 30-day window of time, and you've got like someone's within the first week of someone's onboarding, if they're new, they should have done some things. They should have completed a new hire onboarding path. They probably should have recorded, some kind of pitch just to demonstrate competence and confidence with the core messaging. And maybe there are a couple of self-assessments, right? Super simple, but what you're looking at there is engagement, and what you're looking at is completion. So those are just two simple measures that you want to measure. And that way you just want to verify, are they doing the right activities? Good. Then you want to move into role-based specific leading indicators. So for example, salespeople, you want to start looking at things like pipeline created. So that's interesting leading indicator. I don't want to wait till the deal is closed. I want to know, are they actually creating pipeline? If you're looking at sales development folks, I want to look at email sent. If you're looking at solution consultants, you want to look at some leading indicators like their demo competence and demos that they're on, and the number of demos that they're on. So You want to create a table that's going to look at leading indicators by role, try and get as granular as you can, and try and put some measure of verification against it, whether it's activities or records that are being created. I'll give you another one, right? So for example, a salesperson, there is one even before, there are a whole bunch before pipeline being created, but it's meetings, right? So how many meetings are they having? And I can go even a little bit more granular. I want to know, are they, show me the emails that you're sending out to confirm the meeting, or show me the meeting email recap summary where you're summarizing what you learned, or send me a snippet of your call that you had, right? So you see here, I can start verifying competence and confidence around specific skills, specific sales plays, and specific products early on. And I'm not waiting till their 6th or 7th month. You got to get on top of it in week 1, week 2, week 3. So that way you can provide the input to the frontline managers. So that way they can reinforce with coaching.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's keep going. Boom. I like this question. We had a dinner in for sales enablement a couple of weeks ago in SF, and I think this came up quite a bit, and it does, often, and it's all around buy-in, right? So do you have any suggestion? This is the question. I'll repeat it and say it as asked, which is, any suggestions for incentives to encourage employee participation in self-led learning courses and attaining certifications?
Right. So listen, buy-in and getting folks to appreciate the learning and the programs that are being created for them. First off, super simple, creating, some kind of badging and certification program where there's, you get some awards. I think, and those badges can be shared publicly on your LinkedIn profile. I think that's what we do in SalesHood. So there's a whole badging system and folks can share the badges. I think that's one way to do it. I think being clear on the why of the programs and the content that is being created, I think is super critical, right? So if you're going to create some training and that training is just, it's not high energy, it's not high impact. It doesn't really, I don't really know the impact it's going to have on me or my business. It's just there. I'm not motivated. But if I'm gonna go look at a path and it's got some content in there, and it's gonna, it's about selling an additional product, and that additional product can help me generate pipeline so I can make my number faster. Okay, now you've explained the why, right? I'm gonna do that because I think I'm gonna generate more. I'm gonna make more money from it. So combination of badging, certifications, those kind of incentives, along with just being really, really thoughtful about the content that is being created and the way that's being created and how it's being communicated to your teams. And then the third is celebrating. So celebrate the successes of the people that have gone through the content that you've created, even though it may be optional and opt-in. It's okay, right? Hey, Zach went through the training. You pulled Zach on a call and hey, Zach, let's have a conversation. Like, you went through that training, you found it, it was prescribed to you, or you found it, however you got it. But tell us, how did it help you close the deal? And then you're just like, oh my God, had I not watched the videos, I never would have known the questions to ask, and I never would have closed the deal. My competitor would have won. And oh yeah, and I closed a $50,000 deal. Amazing, Zach. Check out that story, everyone. Boom, here's the link. Now everyone's going to go through that training. So that's how you want to celebrate it.
Yeah. Let's keep going. Do you like having a 30, 60, 90 onboarding and ramping program in terms of timeline in most cases? Or I guess, how can a company shorten or expedite that when they need to get reps fully ramped quicker?
Yeah,
the ramp questions are huge.
Huge. I use 30, 60, 90,
Right.
metaphorically. It's in my brain because that's what we did at Salesforce. And it's something I think organizations are looking to dramatically shorten it, right? So you pretty much want to get your people proficient within 30 days. And so what you can do is you can take a 30, 60, 90 day time horizon, but if you've got leading indicators, and so, what are they going to be good at after the first week, after the second week, after the third week, after the fourth week? When are you taking the training wheels off? And basically, when are they going to start doing calls on their own? So you got to measure that, right? And then you can have a 30, 60, 90, but it's not going to be as intensive in the second and in the third month. But depending on your sales cycles, depending on the roles, like for example, SDRs and BDRs, you ran an SDR BDR team, you said, like, I can't wait 90 days. They got to be like on the phone making calls by the end of the first or second. Most
Day
of our
two,
customers,
right? Yeah, that's how you train them, right?
that's how you train them. I
Yeah.
was like, Sage is one of our customers, the largest customer actually. And, I remember I was on a call with their head of SDRs and they said, they go through the SDR learning, they're practicing, they're doing the micro learning, they're getting a lot of mentorship, but after 7 days, they're on the phones and they're calling. And so now that's how short and compressed they want the cycles to be for that role, right? An SMB rep, maybe it's 2 weeks. An enterprise rep, maybe they're a little comfortable after 30 days, but you got to balance. You got to balance the amount of content you're giving to folks. You gotta be really clear on the specific assessments that you're having them do. It's got to be relevant. Like I'll give you one more example. You don't need to train your sellers on how to close an order, on how your CPQ works, on how all those back of the funnel stuff works. That doesn't need to be first week training, right?
Right.
Put that training later, or make it be just in time when they actually have a deal to close, right? So that's how I'd be rethinking it. So yeah, let me take back the 30, 60, 90
I love it.
and let's just call it, role like a time-based, role-based onboarding that should map to the sales cycles and to the time you need them to be productive and actually contributing revenue. So, 30 days, if your folks aren't able to be working deals on their own, working demos on their own, on the phones on their own within 30 days, there's something wrong with your onboarding. I will say that.
Boom. It keeps coming back to, you brought this up earlier, and I know you're saying you're writing an article and can't wait to pick your brain on this, but around, enablement and how it ties to HR. And this is just another point, right? I mean, it doesn't depend on the position. Does it depend on, like you talked about BDRs, SDRs. I mean, that role sometimes is only a year. So you're going to spend 90 days, pretty much what, 25% of the entire role on training them? And then in a year, they're going to be like, well, I want to be an AE. Like, it does have to depend on the role, the length of the role, how long people are. So I love the thought about connecting it to HR because it's super important.
Yeah. But Zach, remember the other question we had? How do you motivate people to self-select and opt in for content?
Mm-hmm.
Like you just listed something, you reminded me of something. A lot of our customers, what they'll do is they'll create, for SDR specifically, they'll create, an area where they can go and start getting ahead of their learning for sales, so that you can create like a sales fast ramp path for an SDR, and you can just put it out there to the world of SDRs. Mm-hmm. Here's your skills training for sales, and then you can see which one of them actually progresses faster through the learning. And then those are the ones that can get promoted faster for the jobs, right? Mm-hmm. You want to get promoted to AE faster? Well, go finish the training. It's opt in. I'll do that on my spare time, maybe.
Yeah, no, yeah, right. I mean, if you're crushing it, you're crushing it. But if you're not, you better do that, right? So
yeah,
I think that's all right. This question just came in the Q&A. If you have a new class of hires starting all at the same time, yet some are clearly adapting quicker than others, do you alter the program for the ones that are struggling early on, or keep everyone on a similar track?
Right. No, it's a good question. I'm thinking about the answer. So the answer has a few dimensions to it. First answer is we talked about what great sales enablement is, and peer accelerated learning is a key component of it. So if your sales enablement program and your sales enablement technologies don't support the ability for peers to learn from each other, see each other, learn from each other, give each other feedback, then you're missing an opportunity to speed up the impact. So therefore, you may have some that are advanced and more advanced than the others. And so when that's the case, I think someone that is new, if they're both new starting the same day, if someone gets it faster, then buddy them up. And the person that is getting a little faster, they can explain more, they can teach a little bit more, they'll learn faster, they'll be that much more impactful. And so that's a reason to not adjust. The other thing is, the other dimension to the answer is, I think that's good information, right? So I wouldn't go adjusting the program because that's not going to scale. And you can't, like, your program is your program, right? However, if you've got a good program, if you're tracking things like completion, video watching time, you're doing assessments, and you create a scorecard at the end where you're scoring the cohort, then that's why, after the first 30 days, you're almost doing a handoff to the frontline manager. And then the frontline manager should get like a scorecard. You've got 3 new people. These 2 they're crushing it on all these dimensions. They need a little bit of help here. This one, they're behind on their conversational competence of the pitch. They're struggling a little bit with just being consultative in their curiosity of asking questions. So you're going to need to lean in and provide more coaching to them in those areas. So don't change your program. Focus on peer-to-peer, but it's good to assess and identify those gaps. But then you really got to lean on your frontline managers to do the reinforcement, and then they ultimately make the decision if they're going to keep them or not. If they're not going to cut, it's not going to make the cut. That's how I would do it.
Yeah, I like that. We have a lot more questions. I know we have about 15 more minutes. Can you give the folks listening in who maybe we can't get to their questions a place to reach you, or how they should ask you questions? I mean, of course, we'll send an email, but any specific places or ways the folks listening in should reach out to you?
Right. No, so I appreciate it. I'm just plugging in. So couple of things. Yeah, listen, LinkedIn is fine. You know, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Elay at ELAY at SalesHood.com. You can also go to our demo page, and on our demo pages, it's Talk to Expert, and you can submit a form there, watch a demo, and you can get one of our experts, and myself will be able to follow up. And when someone pings you, you can just say, hey, listen, I was on a call with Elay, and I want to talk more. So we can get that arranged. But ELAY at SalesHood.com. I appreciate, Zach, you asked.
And we'll send a note, guys, and I'm going to get Elay to give us some documents to share with the community as well. So don't worry about it. Just wanted to give that out.
I'm right here. I just have to plug in my computer. Sorry, man.
Oh, all good. I was like, oh no, I can't answer these enablement.
Yeah. I think there's also a leadership course that we have. So the question around advanced, what are the characteristics and skills of an enablement practitioner? We do have a course that is an advanced course. There are a lot of courses out there from a variety of companies. HubSpot has one, and but ours is more advanced because we're really trying to elevate the profession. And so that one's on our homepage of our website. You can easily sign up for that one too. There are a number of ways. And by the way, I'm not selling books here. I'm just telling you there's a book, Enablement Mastery. It's being used by universities. Our customers love it. Companies love it. And so you can always get a lot of great intel in that book as well. And hey, if you want us to send you one, we'll send you one too, right? No problem.
First person to post on the Voray platform gets a free book from Elay. There, I said it. I promise I will buy it if I have to. Okay, let's try to get through it. This is the next question. It's a little specific, but I think it should add value. I hope this person's still on. I'm the only person in enablement in my company and report to the CEO, not VP of sales.
Yeah.
Who doesn't have a sales background at all. I've come up with ways I think the enablement function should be measured and quantified, but he has his own ideas. Any suggestions on how to handle this situation? I know it's specific because it's more, a manager and how to talk to somebody in a cultural situation, but I'm sure you could add some value here, Eli.
I would lean into curiosity. You really need to understand your CEO's priorities, and I would want to understand their metrics and what's important to them. I think you have to assume that your CEO may know a thing or two about the future of their business and their go-to-market, and I'd respect that and appreciate that. And then once you get clarity on the measures that are important to them and the outcomes that they expect, then you can calibrate what you're doing and align with that. The most important thing with enablement is to be 100% aligned with your leadership team, with your executive staff. That's, to me, when I was at Salesforce, my team and I were aligned with Benioff and his priorities. When we sit down, every one of our customers, Sage, RingCentral, any one of our amazing customers that we have, ActiveTrack, there's so many, Palo Alto, Seagate, these are amazing companies. When enablement, the function, the programs, the content, when it's not aligned with the top level priorities, what ends up happening is your teams that are consuming the content, they're going to feel that there is a disconnect. The training and the content that's being provided to me feels unaligned with what the company is asking me to do. So your job as an enablement practitioner, as an enablement leader, is to get crystal clear clarity across what your stakeholders expect the programs to do and the investments that they're making enablement to do. And then that needs to be that's your vision. That's your charter. That's what you need to be focused on. Yeah. Look at Jay. Managing up can be the hardest part of the job, bar none, for sure. But it's not your way or the highway. This is a partnership. It's a conversation, but you really, really need to understand what measures are important to them and then provide examples of programs you want to run that will be aligned with them, right? Because then let's fast forward, Zach, let's fast forward 60 days and you're sitting down with your CEO or your head of sales or whoever, and you're talking about your programs. If you're not speaking in their language, your enablement isn't impacting what's most important to them. So you need to understand their measures, whether it's pipe creation, whether it's a faster ramp time, whether it's win rates, whether it's sales cycle time, whether it's cross sell, whether it's upsell, whether it's, whatever it is. And that's what you're reporting on. Hey, we rolled out this training. Hey, we rolled out these new assets. Hey, we rolled out this new program, and to achieve your specific goal that you're trying to achieve at the company.
Awesome. And I want you to say that upsell, pass sell thing 7 times fast really quick. No, I'm kidding. This question just came in. I think it's a good one. Any advice on how to get sales managers to buy into a defined and organized coaching program?
Yeah.
They tend to prefer to wing it and go off intuition a lot of the time. And I would like a more clear process. Whoever asked that, feel free to share some more insight in the chat, but I'll leave it to you, Eli.
Thank you. Great question. I love it. Comes up a lot. And I've had the good fortune of working with many great companies, and the leaders, and specifically the frontline managers that have really leaned into enablement are the ones that end up co-creating the programs. And so, Dave Apple is an amazing leader out there, and he runs sales for the software division over at Sage. And Dave, he created his own training in collaboration and his own coaching in collaboration with enablement. And that was a very important lesson for all of us, because we realized that if you're going to create a coaching program and you're going to hand it to a frontline manager, I don't know, that's not the way I do things. Versus, why don't you look at your frontline managers? Why don't you identify 1 or 2 that are actually doing coaching the right way? Then take from them what they're coaching, how they're coaching, what are they doing on a regular basis, how do they run one-on-ones, and then scale them, replicate them, turn that into a repeatable program. And then, so you crowdsource some of the best practices from some of the ones that you're doing, and then you roll out a formalized coaching program, but you're not the one selling it. They are.
Yeah.
You get them to be the ones. You bring all your managers together, get them all together, and then bring your Dave Apple to the table and have Dave present and show how they're using, your systems and tools and programs and how it's helped them be successful. That's how I would do it. Co-create.
Success, right? That's the best way to do it. Show somebody that's using it and that's making more money than everybody else. And people will start learning, right?
Absolutely. Let's keep going. We got more. I'll tighten up my answers a bit.
Okay, yeah, let's keep going. What is the ideal dynamic between product marketing and sales enablement? How do you establish a clear delineation as it relates to supporting sales teams and customer success?
Got it. I love it. We hear that a lot. And one of the big values that SalesHood delivers to companies is complete go-to-market alignment. And, Live Person is a customer of ours. They've been with us for a few months. And what we did was a system like SalesHood enables marketing, sales, ops, to get an enablement to get aligned on core messaging. And so take any priority that you may have, any priority, doesn't matter what it is, new campaign, new product, new corporate pitch. What you want to do as an enablement leader is you want to bring all stakeholders together and you want to agree on, what are the expected outcomes? How are we going to measure success? What's our timeline? And start distributing responsibilities, because it's not realistic to think an enablement practitioner is going to build a corporate pitch deck, but that's PMM's job. That's marketing's job. But you as an enablement leader, it's your job to kind of just have a program, have a project plan in place that defines deliverables, outcomes and a timeline to roll this stuff out. And listen, the marketing teams, they're amazing. All they want to do is give us content. All they want to do is get their content to be consumed, but they need someone to tell them, when is it due? Give me the template, how to organize the content, and tell me people are going to use it. So be transparent around your timelines, be clear on the asks, but be very, very communicative on the impact of their programs, and just make it easy for them to know what's working, what's not working. And, I used to sit on the CMO's staff. Right. I used to sit in on the CMO's weekly sales meeting. Craig Swensford was a CMO back then. He's now the CEO of a company called Qualified. And I remember it. I used to go Sometimes, like I wasn't there all the time, but it's a point, right? Enablement practitioners, you should be raising your hand and trying to sit in staff meetings of the PMM group or the CMO just to remain aligned just to remain aligned. So the best sales and marketing teams are completely aligned on go-to-market and completely aligned on who is doing what across the life cycle of enabling a global organization.
Let's keep going. Lately seeing a big push for the sales process to be more transparent for the buyer, like implementing MAPs. Any thought on this? And if it can work for any sales org or just some? I like this question.
No, I love it. I love it. I love it. So, hey, listen, so I agree. And I think transparency of the buying journey is something that we're going to see more and more. So, and I'm excited about it because I think the steps to help our buyers make decisions faster should be their steps, not our steps to update a Salesforce opportunity so we can forecast appropriately. Yeah. We rolled out last year digital sales rooms, and we rolled them out specifically because we wanted to enable salespeople to create a timeline, and that is co-created with their champion and executive sponsor in the deals. Why? To ultimately help buyers make decisions faster. I think that's something that happened with COVID, right? With COVID and the pandemic, with remote selling really taking the forefront, the irony is decisions are happening faster because you can get stakeholders together to review information, to share what's working, what's not working, and ultimately get to decisions on faster, right? So yeah, I think it's a super interesting question, and I love it. And yeah, technology can help you scale a repeatable buying journey that is shared transparently with a buyer, so that way they can come back. Because think about it, right? Like you have a meeting, and at the end of the meeting, like, Zach, this was great. I think there's a real opportunity here for us to help you. I summarize your challenges. I summarize what's going on. I say, listen, Zach, I'm going to send you to a site that I've created just for you. It's got some amazing content. It's got some demos. It's got some references, and it's got a timeline. You told me you got to get this done by this date. You got to tell me, and I send that to you, and tell me what you think. Boom. Yeah. And then you're like, this is great. And you add some comments. That's transparency. Yeah. And that's me helping you make a decision. That's not me selling to you.
Yeah, no, I really like, and I know we could have an entire conversation on all of these topics.
Yeah.
And depending maybe in what area of enablement, like at Voray, we have a couple different groups. We have like for trainers, for analytics, for the enablement that does more tools. And I totally can see the value of these questions based on that. But I'll stop talking because nobody wants to hear from me. And we have a couple.
You're doing great. I love it. Zach.
But this question, and I think you'll have an answer. And I also think based on what you just said, it's super relevant, which is any downsides for using one system for all of your enablement needs?
Any downsides?
Any downsides? I just asked the questions, Eli.
It's an interesting question. I think I honestly, like, I can only see upside in having
less tools, the better. I mean, I totally agree. I'm just curious.
I think if you believe your organization is going to be better suited by having siloed processes for your sales teams, one system for learning, one system for coaching, and one system for selling, for engaging customers, if that's how you think you can achieve your goals faster, then that's that's what you believe, right? I know this. When companies have multiple systems for enablement, the speed with which they can report on the impact and correlate the data is exponentially longer. And the problem is, if you're waiting 3 months, 6 months to see how your programs are doing, and then, oh my God, it's too late. And so that's my humble opinion. I think I haven't seen downsides. I think you need systems that are flexible and that can adapt to different cultures, to different localized languages. You need systems that can provide unique processes. Then the same argument can be made. Oh, should we have separate systems for the different roles? Any downsides to have actually, you want to have one system that can share content as well. And that way you can have your SDRs, your partners, your AEs, your CSMs. And so, yeah, no, I thought about it. I went through my head, like, I'm like, are there any downsides? And I'm like, oh, I can't think of any. And if you have any, please ping me and educate me, please.
Yeah, no.
I'm a student of new ideas, so send them my way.
Right. I mean, if the argument, right, the idea is communication and collaboration, right? And it's easier to do on one system than multiple systems. So I totally agree. All right, two more questions. That's what we got time for. I like this one. How long after implementing a new strategy, report, challenge, do you consider a statistically valid period of time to generate publishable reports? And what do you do in the interim to maintain enthusiasm and participation while results are pending, particularly with teams new to outside input and direction? I love how I went for like the hardest question I could read possibly.
Right. Okay, so I think I understand it, but let me summarize it. Right. So how do we know things are working?
Yeah.
And how long until, so this goes back to leading indicators, right? So if you can get really granular on specific activities, right? So contacts created, email sent, meetings scheduled, and you start setting some of these baseline measures as success criteria for your programs, then I don't want to wait for closed business. I want to know how many meetings are being created this week, because that's what we're measuring right now. So therefore, you may have a 60-day program where you're rolling out a new playbook, or you're rolling out a new, and someone asked what a playbook was, and a playbook is a collection of materials and sales plays that ultimately enables you to drive alignment across an organization so they can be conversationally competent and really be able to manage a program and manage sales execution in a consistent manner. So you roll something like that out. But like, what's the first leading indicator that we're going to measure? Great. We're going to measure, meeting schedule. Awesome. So that doesn't need to be